Cuomo and Konnichiwa. Plus, Yabaseo. Well, here, the POLIT'AI CHI. Watch that tripod, buddy. Doing a brief intro, so you know the video highlights coming up. Plus my 2 cents. Hopefully it's worth a quarter to you. Alright, did you see how Don Lemon made it? If it were even possible where Don Lemon could make a bigger ass out of himself. Yeah, I said that. Last week, with regard to, and this is all post, GHW's funeral review. I mean, he knew what was going to happen if you're a slightly right of center centrist like I have become. Which is not to say Hannity is all that. I actually, 50% of the time, disagree with his over-the-top approach. Interestingly enough, he seemed to be more even-keeled, rather, when Billow was there. Now, there's, for good reason, a lot of things have happened, but the talking points that he keeps bringing up, like kicking that dead horse, nothing's happened from it. But this is worth mentioning, because this dude, you'll hear coming up in the highlights, where he uses the term brother. And you might say, within me, based on appearance, would be comrade. And although the appearances may appear as such, yet there's no more brother in that dude than there is communist in me. It's ridiculous. And kudos to Chris Cuomo, because his dad he's made a bunch of gaffes on behalf of the state of New York. He called him out on it. And so he has been given a hard time, especially by Hannity, at times, and rightfully so, and Greg Guptill, because he's just kind of like one of those short, smug guys. Very cerebral and funny on the fly and great, at ad-lib, but sometimes just a little bit too mean-spirited. And so that's the burden of being a centrist. You gotta call out everything going on and be an equal opportunity critiquer without being critical. Disagree while still being agreeable. How's that for alliteration? And then, here's the key point as to what led to this particular montage being put together. And Hannity's he's just got to take a little bit of a step back and laugh a little bit, because the things that were said about this particular moment, I mean, there's reverence, there's respectability going on. For my part, I'll say the president brings it on himself at times. If that's not your cup of tea in that particular Christian setting, do it anyway. But there's still reverence. And so you'll hear some comments, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Or like that, showing up on film. That, is I wouldn't say appropriate, but it didn't come out of left field either. So, yeah, I like taking stuff from Hannity here and there, but unlike a centrist, he's so President Trump, he sees no fault in anything that he does. And so that's probably why, a centrist like myself, 24 years of Taoistic training, what the hell is he talking about? He said, keep talking centrist. And your logo and all that, the title to this particular offshoot of the OMSR. Poly sportsman on Tai Chi. Well, the Tai Chi is the origin of yin and yang and the explanation thereof. The ultimate philosophy when it comes to being a centrist. You take in all sides and you remove the extremes. That's what that symbol means in the middle. So, I'm sorry, Hannity, you're just kind of blinded at times, but that's okay, because I can't cover MSNBC anymore. I want to take this large screen off the wall and break it over my knee. All right, so those are highlights coming up. Said my piece rant-wise. Thanks for watching. No silly DUIs while you're out there. Roll.
All right, as I have explained again and again, when it comes to trashing President Trump, well, nothing is off limits. And if you thought what we showed you last night was bad, it's getting even worse. And that is the subject of tonight's mini monologue. All right, tonight the media is sinking to new depths, if that's even possible. Clearly it is, as they continue to use the funeral, the life, the legacy of former President George H.W. Bush to attack President Trump. Now, after yesterday's powerful memorial service in Washington, D.C. for the late 41st president, well, your mainstream media still cannot stop.
Yeah, I probably should have made that clear
to
in the
demonize
intro as well.
their current enemy, which is President Trump.
Using the
It's getting more
GHW's
ridiculous. They're now going after President Trump over how he prays.
for their
I'm not making this up to them.
was very tactful,
Even standing
for sure.
silently during the Apostles' Creed at a funeral is cause for an attack against him. But it shows how the media is getting more and more unhinged, more hateful, and more divorced from any sense of reality or what their real job's supposed to be. And they wonder why nobody trusts them. And of course, the Destroy Trump media didn't stop there. Rather than focusing on the life, the accomplishments, the sacrifice, the service of the 41st president, all the coverage looked like this. Take a look.
It was a full state funeral. It was quite a moving sight to see the presidents and the first ladies in the front row waiting to honor President Bush, chatting comfortably with one another.
Yeah, they're all
Until Trump showed
Democrats.
up, then it became silent staring.
Kind of
time.
easy. Well, of course. Here comes the GOP here.
Donald Trump is the only person in the world who can bring down a funeral.
Hillary is just staring straight ahead like she's on an elevator with a weirdo. And it was like, it really was something. It's like all of America's divorced parents together in the same room for the first time.
It was extraordinary to see President Trump sitting with the former president, paying tribute to a leader whose humility and decency is so different from today's politics.
I don't think you want to give out too many medals for not screwing up a presidential funeral. The president was on best behavior this week, but that's a fairly low bar.
Well, I think in this era of covering white-collar crimes and porn stars and vulgarity, you know, it was nice to look back to someone who was trying to represent decency and civility. And when they were planning his funeral in 2011, he said to an aide, "Do you think anyone will come?" And that modesty is in such contrast to Trump's endless odyssey of narcissistic self-discovery.
Now, that's not egregious enough. So-called journalists over at ABC News even joked about a future funeral for President Trump. You can't make this up. Take a look.
Perhaps a recognition in terms of his involvement in the proceedings by President Trump that he someday will be getting a similar treatment when he passes as a former president of the United States.
Probably a different tone in that funeral.
Perhaps.
He's going to choreograph it, so there may be more trumpets and
Maybe he was taking cues. Yes, he would do it bigger. One would imagine.
It'd be the best presidential funeral ever. No one will ever have seen anything like that.
And as disturbing as that was, well, no one embarrassed themselves more than fake news CNN. Our friend Don Lemon said something so outrageous
You don't say
that
our
even his
friend, come
colleague
on.
had to call him out.
It's just so
Take a look.
pretentious.
I want to say that I don't think I would shake hands with him. I don't know. I would just, nope, couldn't do it. I'm not that big a person. I would hope that I would be, but I don't, I can't fake the funk, as they say. I want to show you something. Let me show you what I would have done. Okay, come here. Come here, Don. Come here, Don.
Oh, poor Don.
You're petty and small.
Not petty and small. That's real, brother. That's real. And
Real
it
petty and
shows you
small.
this is.
They say he was a gentleman, and he was. But they didn't say nice things about him when he was alive. Being a gentleman back then, he was a wimp. You know, he was, he was out of touch. He didn't know how to use a scanner, which, by the way, was a fake news story back in the day. And so Reagan, Bush 41, McCain, even, Bush 43 while he was alive, they trashed these men, utterly destroy them. Now they've died, they say nice things to appear, create a veneer that they're bipartisan. And they're not.
George W. Bush was also called a racist before it was fashionable to call anybody a racist for the Willie Horton ad, if you remember that. Interesting stat, in 1992, 7% of journalists voted for George H.W. Bush, the rest obviously for Bill Clinton. You played some clips there. And Kimmel and Colbert were joking, and they're late night hosts, so I kind of give them a pass on that. I still think it's classless, given that this was a state funeral held the same day. But ABC News, their senior analyst, a guy like Terry Moran, is making jokes while you're watching the procession of the casket of George H.W. Bush being taken out of a plane. and he's making jokes about President Trump's future funeral. Do these guys have any self-awareness? The answer is none whatsoever. So, Sean, this is why the media is not only mistrusted, but held in contempt by at least half the country. It's not even about mistrust anymore. It's like, I don't like these people. They don't have any class, and they're cheesy. That Don Lemon skit? I'm going to show you how I'm going to blow off Donald Trump by not shaking his hands. What is that? He's called an anchor on that network. He's not even an opinion.
It's called being a dork.
Dan, I always said in the Obama years, especially on radio more than television, that it wouldn't be good for me to get an interview with then President Obama, because I respect the office. And I think he's a good father, probably a good guy. He's just a rigid, radical ideologue that governed horribly. It's a hard thing because I respected the office. I wouldn't be able to interrupt him like I can you or Joe. Let's put it that way.
And you do that.
Right.
So, I mean, what did you think of that?
Yeah, Sean, this is, you're right. I served as a Secret Service agent for, years, proudly under Barack Obama, because I believe in the constitutional republic, although I, like yourself, disagree with just about every ideological position he had. But this is what's known as the myth of the good Republican. You probably know what I'm talking about here. When a Republican is powerless or is left the political scene, what the media will do is they will paint their coverage of this Republican as something it wasn't. You were absolutely right. When George H.W. Bush was in office, it was merciless, the media coverage. I was just a young man back then, but I specifically remember it, and it was merciless. And they do it for a reason, Sean. They do it because of this foil effect, right? They want to make the current Republicans appear really bad, right? Why do you put a diamond on a black background? Because it seems shinier. So what they want to do is they do the reverse foil. They want to make these Republicans, especially Donald Trump, seem awful. So they go back and rewrite history about how they covered past Republicans. It's total nonsense. Everybody sees right through it.
All right, I got to roll.